Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're going to go to Slovenia today, which is just so dang exciting to me. So, hi, I am Molly Moran. I'm the owner of Table Wine in Madison. If you are joining us live, I'm going to ask that you fill out the one question poll. It takes just a second, but it really does help me get a sense of how much experience you've had with Slovenian wine, because I know that it's an area that, at least here in Wisconsin, we haven't had a lot of wines from this country available. So I'm curious to see how much people already know. Currently, it looks like not a lot. It looks like most of us are kind of in the same boat, with most of us having had none to maybe a little. But somebody out there has had a good amount of it, which is super cool. And so I'm always, whoever you are, please chime in. And if there are more of you out there, please fill out the poll. And the opening question on the table right now, if you haven't answered it, is what's the last movie that you watched and loved? So we've gotten some pretty good recommendations. So you should scroll through and see some of the answers. It's nice to see. So thank you. And it's also a way to draw attention to the fact that we use the chat a lot. So if you are joining us live and you've not joined us for a virtual class before, welcome. I'm super excited to have you. And please, we use the chat as our way of communicating with one another. I chose this format, Crowdcast, so that we have less of the kind of like technical difficulty hangups that can happen. And also so that you can wear whatever the hell you want and eat as much food as you want. Not have to worry about being on screen, but also so that I'm not staring out at a blank screen. So I really like this format, but it does mean you have to chat a little bit. There are some folks who join us for class who are often quiet on the chat, and I totally understand, but I'd love to hear from you today. I'd love to get everybody to chime in at least on something. You have to have watched a movie during the pandemic, I think. Maybe you've gone this whole time without watching a movie. That'd be damn impressive. So I appreciate the answers. My answer, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this. I realized as I was asking the question that I probably had to answer it. I have never seen any of the Somm documentaries because I didn't really think I needed to watch a movie about my, basically my job, like basically about being a wine professional. And so I was really hesitant. And then I had a lot of computer work kind of stuff to do that was decently mindless, but I wanted something on. And I was like, I don't really honestly even know what made me click on it. I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch those. So my husband and I watched all three very quickly. I don't love the first one, but I loved the second and the third one, and I particularly liked the third one. So if you haven't checked those out and you're into wine, get through the first one. It's a lot of dude bros being broy, talking about wine in a super pretentious way. Not my bag, but the other ones are interesting. So for what that's worth. So cool. Oh, that's great. We've got somebody whose mother was from Slovenia. So that's really super cool to see. Kristen and Patty are asking on Netflix, do they have a name? Yeah, it's like Somm, S-O-M-M. I'll put it in the chat. It's like Somm 1, Somm 2, Somm 3. So they're pretty cool. Oh yeah, look, we have some Slovenian folks joining us. That's great. And now my pressure's on to watch my pronunciation. I'll do my very best. I try to honor languages as best I can, but I have to be honest, I've not heard Slovenian spoken before by anybody who knows what they're talking about. So, it's not like, I don't know, French where I hear it a lot. So pardon my pronunciations. So let's dig in and talk. If you don't already have wine in your glass, we're going to start with the Sauvignon Blanc. So if you want to have something, you can start there, but I'm going to talk for a few minutes about some base kind of fundamental information. And then we'll get to the wines in a few minutes. Oh my gosh, Molly and Michael witnessed a Slovenian world record when they were there. The most Slovenians watching a Slovenian movie at once. That's amazing. I love that so much. That's so great. Oh, that's great. 200 people. That was the record? That's amazing. I love that. All right, let's dig in. Let's talk about Slovenian wine a bit. Oh, sorry. I'm clicking random things here on my screen. Hopefully you can't see it. Okay, so some brief history about centuries of, of information. Here's what you need to know. I find this fascinating. Wine in Slovenia has been there since before the Romans. So my ancestors, I'm going to take credit here, my ancestors, the Celts really kind of had conquered most of Central Europe along with the Illyrians. And so they trace wine back to Slovenia, to that era. So we're talking about the 4th century BC. That's really rare in Europe. It's really, really rare. Most people's stories about, most countries' history stories about wine all depend on the Romans. So much of it comes from Italy, and Italy, you know, Rome as it expanded and spread out. So it's really rare to find grapes and winemaking techniques that predate that. So we're talking a really, really long time ago. We'll talk about one of those styles in the middle, which is an ancient style of making wine that is now like the cool hip thing. But we'll get kind of return back to our ancient history. There were grapes and there was wine being made over those centuries. And then just kind of as empires changed hands, by the Middle Ages, this area was Christian. And so all of the wine production was being overseen by monasteries. That's a really common piece of history. Anywhere that Christians were, there were grapes and there was wine being made for at least consumption in church, if not at home consumption. So, Middle Ages, there was wine being made. I know that I'm kind of jumping a huge chunk of time in history, but there's really nothing of note to talk about. There was wine. There was wine being made. There it was. It wasn't of any particular renown. It wasn't exported heavily. It just was kind of like, it was being produced, but that's kind of all you need to know. Though when Slovenia was conquered by the Austro-Hungarian Empire, there was still wine being made, but the quality tanked. The quality was terrible. It just was not a priority. There were grapes that survived World War II, but the quality was quite low. Mostly sweet fortified wines that were not of any interest really to anybody. So for about a couple of decades, the wine just kind of was there, nothing really interesting happening. In the late 60s, the government said, like, we're going to stop producing all of this mass-produced, no demarcations on quality. We're going to stop doing that and we're going to focus a little bit more. But here's the tricky part. They said, like, we're going to focus a little bit more. We're going to come up with a quality system. We're going to taste the wines and all that stuff. However, because at this point it was a communist country, everything was run by co-ops. So no more independent wineries. Now anybody who was growing grapes, all of the grape growers, farmers were part of co-ops. The grapes just came in bulk, and then this mass bulk wine was being produced. So while they're saying they're kind of controlling quality, they did away with any sort of variance, any sort of individuality, and people who had formerly been making wine, now you're just a grape grower. Just sell us your grapes. We don't want to know anything about your family traditions or anything of that sort. So then the wine industry, so that's kind of where it hung out for a few decades. It was just kind of bulk wine, pretty much only drunk within Yugoslavia. And then the wine industry in Slovenia really, really suffered during the Yugoslav war. Some of the other countries suffered greater losses in terms of having their vines ripped up, and being told like, no, like that's not going to happen, / the devastation of the war, making it not a priority. Slovenia was able to preserve some of their grapes. And they kind of had, my understanding is they have a better reputation in the West than some of the other countries that came out of the split. So people were more interested here in the US, people were more interested in supporting the Slovenian wine industry than they were, say, for some of the other countries that had gained independence. So when I say rebounded, when I say interest is growing, I'm talking minimal. I'm talking very, very, very small. There is quite a bit of wine produced in Slovenia, and almost all of it stays within the Slovenian borders and some of the former Yugoslav countries. We are pretty much their only export market, which is I find really interesting. They don't really export through the Western Europe. Western Europe, as you can probably imagine, kind of snotty about their wine, and so they're not particularly, like, the French aren't clamoring to drink Slovenian wine, to my knowledge. So the majority of exports are coming here to the United States, and that's a lot of it because we have Slovenian immigrants, as evidenced by our chat and folks who, you have some affinity for it, right? Your family was born there. You want to know more about the place from which you come. I completely understand that. If my ancestors made wine, I'd be so excited. But my ancestors just make whiskey. So wine fundamental information, because I realize looking at the poll, most of us today don't have very much experience with Slovenian wine. So things that you want to know about Slovenian wine. I'm going to show you in a map in just a second where it's located, close to Austria and Italy. So not surprisingly, those two countries have a big influence on winemaking now. So the things that are most notable are that they tend to focus on single varietal wines rather than blends. So you're not going to get a whole lot of white blends, red blends in Slovenia. They tend to focus a little bit more on, hey, this is the grape, and we're going to name it by the grape. The influence is seen in the varietals that are grown, and we'll talk through that kind of when we get to the red. But it is heavily influenced by both that time as the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and then more recent times where folks are kind of learning from their Italian neighbors and saying like, hey, what's working well? And then skin contact whites are super important in Slovenia. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you will in a few minutes. That's our second wine. So we'll talk about that then, but just know that that's an influence from Italy. There are 3 main wine regions, one in the east, one in the west, and then a little guy in the southwest that really doesn't produce nearly as much wine as the other 2. Podravia is over to the east and is close to Hungary, and that is the big region. It's kind of the California of Slovenia, to put it in US terms. The country itself has wildly different terrain, lots and lots and lots of different microclimates. So it's hard to say that there's like one style of the country. So I can't necessarily tell you like, oh, this is what all Slovenian wine tastes like, but really there aren't that many places that you can say that about. So that's not really that surprising. The other thing to know about Slovenia, if you are putting it on your someday I'd like to travel there list, or just kind of thinking about exploring the wines more, it's a white wine dominant country. So you're looking at about 3/4 of the wine being white wine. Most of the rest of it is red. There's a little tiny bit of other bubbles, rosé, things like that. But the majority of it is white. And here is, and the varietals. Some of these will be really familiar, right? Key white grapes, Sauv Blanc, Pinot Gris, Chardonnay. There's a grape called Ribolla that is grown in northern Italy that is incredibly important in Western Slovenia, right? They are next to each other. And so they both grow Ribolla quite a bit. Key red varietals vary a little bit more, but Merlot and Pinot Noir are the 2 big ones. And then again, an Italian varietal that you might not know, which is called Refosco. So same story there, where the border is kind of, the grapes don't know about that border. The grapes don't so much care about country borders. Here's a map for you just so that you can kind of get your bearings. So the big area here is the green area. And then Primorska is over on the western side, it's much smaller than the others, but it's actually second in terms of production. Any questions about that fundamental stuff before we dig into the wines? No? Quiet? Okay. Would somebody who has Slovenian heritage or just knows the culinary dishes really well, I'm seeing that there's a dish being described called potica? Would somebody in the chat describe what that dish is? Because I'm super curious. I fancy myself very knowledgeable about food. It's a bread. What makes it special? Anything? Sweetbread, walnuts, honey, yeast. Sweetbread, delicious. Oh, that sounds great. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you all for helping me with that. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Great. Okay. If there are no questions about fundamental stuff, let's talk about Sauvignon Blanc. I know we had to make some substitutions for some folks who are watching either live or maybe watching the recording. Potitza. Thank you. You're trying and I appreciate it. I know some folks had to have substitutions, but I believe everybody should have this Sauvignon Blanc if you bought the wines from us. So Sauv Blanc is one of the most widely grown grapes in the country. Kind of varies by region. It is grown throughout the whole country, but in Podravska, it is the primary white grape. If you are familiar with Sauvignon Blanc from other places in the world, the thing that I can say that is pretty much true of all Sauv Blancs from Slovenia, regardless of region, they're not quite as grassy green as New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and they are more fruit forward than French Sauvignon Blanc. So they're lovely. They're really super, super lovely. So they're known for having either citrus and or tropical fruit flavors. So when I say tropical fruit, it can show up as like passion fruit, guava, mango, pineapple, like all, I think it's self-evident what tropical fruits are, but I don't think our mind necessarily goes to those aromas and flavors when we're tasting wine if you don't kind of hang out in the certain groups or certain grapes that lean towards those flavors. They're known for some being floral, definitely like spice. That's a style thing that a lot of winemakers go after, and definitely some minerality, which we'll talk about with this wine. The food pairings that I have listed there are specific to this wine. Things that are a little green, super briny cheeses are also a great match. So feel free to taste. I want to show you, often I'll hang out and wait to show you the picture of the place, but I'm going to show you this as you're tasting. I'm going to talk a little bit. So you can see that slope down. So this area was an ancient seabed. So that sea has since dried up, obviously, which is pretty similar to like the story of Chablis in France. There are these places that have dried seabed, and it's just absolutely perfect for growing grapes. The picture kind of does it justice. This is from their website. You can kind of see that it's a decently steep slope, right? So you can kind of imagine that all filled in with water. If you have the bottle in front of you, the picture on the front label is a fossilized seashell that they have. You can get onto their website and actually see. Now I'm going to make myself bigger because I think you've seen the seabed. So this is a fossil that they actually have at the winery. So I bring it up, and Fosilny Breg translates to like fossil hill. So They are very proud of the soil, and they're very proud of the minerality that they get in their wine. I don't mean to plant and tell you what you're supposed to be smelling and tasting, but I don't think it's any secret. You know, you're allowed to smell and taste other things. So swirl away, sip away, tell me what you're tasting, what you think of it. I'm going to bring that other slide back up in case anybody needs food pairing suggestions again. Salty pineapple. Yes, please. That sounds delicious. Yeah. I feel like it's green apple and skin, apricot and minerals. Yeah. It's got that lovely tartness to it. Lots of acid, guava. Yeah, right? Yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad Megan's having it with cheese. I'm so glad. It is an acid bomb. I mean, it definitely, your mouth is watering, right? Your mouth, like, there's no joke. There's no like subtlety on that fact. But I do think that like there's, I don't know, it's not just a total like laser. I mean, it definitely makes my mouth water, but now after I've finished sipping, I feel like it feels really like lovely on the palate. Like it, you know, it's, my mouth is awake, but it's not just like killing it with acid. Both tropical fruit and mineral aromas. I completely agree. I think it like smells stonier than I think it tastes, even though it has plenty of minerality on the palate. I do think that it smells like it's going to be all rocks. And then you taste it and it's like, oh, there's some fruit there. Look at that. I think there are 3 Mollies today, which is kind of amazing. So Molly M, who's not me, is talking about the effervescence. And I would say that it's like, actually, it's not actually effervescent, but it has so much acidity that it feels tingly on the tongue. It's reminding someone of a dry hard cider, which I totally see, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Tropical fruit and minerals, right? Like, again, like, I don't mean to say like, this is what you're supposed to be picking up on. But I just think that that's like, so much what this wine is. And it's just such a lovely example of, Sauv Blanc that's from a different place than we see the majority of Sauvignon Blanc. That's like familiar, but kind of a new combination, which is why I love this wine. I haven't had this wine. This was our first Slovenian wine at the shop. And it hasn't been on the shelf for years, quite honestly. Not because I don't love it. It just is, you know, slightly a hard sell. And when it came time for this class, I was like, you know what? I'm bringing that back. I love that wine. And I just think it's such a fun thing to introduce people to. So I'm glad that you're all enjoying it. Katya and Drew are saying the minerality does remind you of white Burgundy or Chablis. Yeah. I mean, I think like if I were tasting this blind, I would probably think it was a Loire Valley Sauvignon Blanc. Like I would, you know, I'd be a little thrown off by the tropical fruit flavors, but I'd be like, I'm going there. So, Gary and Chris are saying, you got tropical fruit right away, but you're not well versed in minerality. Would you be able to describe that aspect? Yeah. I could go on and on. I would love to. I've taught entire classes about minerality, but in a nutshell, what the hell are we all talking about when we're talking about minerals? Minerals are basically a bucket of flavors and aromas that are non-fruit, non-vegetable, non-oak flavors and aromas. So you kind of like take out all the fruit things, right? Which is a huge bucket of all of the, like the majority of flavors and aromas that we all talk about when we're talking about wine. You get rid of things like bell pepper and grass and butter and oak and things like that. And what you're left with is this little bucket of kind of hard to describe flavors and aromas that are things like, I mean, some folks were saying salty. So that kind of that mouth-watering feel that we had because of the acid often reminds people of salt. Because it has that same kind of thing. So when it's a high acid, high mineral wine, people often gravitate towards salt. If you pour yourself a little bit more, or maybe you have a full glass, I have to pour myself a little bit more, and you smell it, it doesn't smell immediately like, oh my gosh, so much fruit, right? Like somebody's chopping a pineapple in front of me. You smell it and it's kind of like, what is that smell? It's almost a little chalky. It's almost a little like, I don't know if you've ever like been around a bowl of seashells, you know, somebody's collected a bowl of seashells. It almost has that, like that kind of aroma. And then on the palate, that same kind of thing comes through. Let me know if you want kind of more, or if that's good. Okay, because again, I could talk about it all day. Mineral wines are like it's like my wheelhouse of flavors, and I love them. So I'm happy to keep going. I'm so glad to see so many people are enjoying this wine. Oh, a little anise. I could see that. One of my suggestions for pairing is mussels with fennel, because as I was just like thinking about this wine in my head, I was like, you want seafood, right? That a little bit of that brininess with this salt, but then also that fennel is just so delicious. So yeah, I would totally agree. I love that people are sitting outside for the class. That's so awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is anybody not enjoying the wine? It seems like we have a lot of happy folks. Is anybody grumpy? Great. I'm glad. Oh, good. Well, that's awesome. It's great if everybody's loving it. That's fantastic. I mean, like I said, I was so happy when I realized, oh my gosh, I can pour this wine for folks and get you to taste it. If people are being quiet, I'm just going to throw this out there. If the acidity is a little too much for you, if it's a little too tart for you, and you haven't joined the cheese club that's happening, I do highly recommend getting some food out right now. Trying it with something. If you don't have cheese or you don't eat cheese, that's fine. Try it. Really, I mean, the acidity there is food friendly enough that it'd be nice with, like some raw veggies and hummus. It'd be, good with kind of like anything you really want to snack on right now. Maybe not like the best with like nuts. It doesn't kind of like have the right flavor profile for that, but it doesn't sound like anybody's grumpy about the acidity. But if you're being quiet because you don't like the wine that everybody's saying they love, which is totally true, right? It happens a lot. I would say have it with some food, or save it for later and have it with some food. Oh, good. You had it with salmon spread and it was great. That's great. I'm really glad to hear it. It's super, super flexible. And we have another Sauv Blanc at the shop from Slovenia that is it's definitely more on the tropical fruit side of the spectrum, a little lower in the minerality spectrum, but it's equally like show-stoppingly good. Like really, truly. I would say I've really had not that many Slovenian wines in my time. And every single time I taste a Sauvignon Blanc from the area, I'm just blown away. I just think it's so special. It's familiar, but special. So I hope that you enjoy it. And whenever you get around to drinking it, Marilyn, that's just fine. It's just great. And I think it'll be really delicious. I agree with the fact that it's really balanced. And that's what I was saying when we were talking about the acidity. It definitely wakes your mouth up. But it's not just like a one note green Jolly Rancher. It's not just like, okay, that just tastes like tart. That just tastes like malic acid, and that's all that it tastes like. It's like, oh, this has like some complexity to it, and the finish is really nice. So I'm glad. I'm really glad. So I'm seeing that this wine is rating a star with a cowboy hat on one person's ever-changing wine rating scale. One never really knows what that means, but I'll take it. I will take a star with a cowboy hat. I assume that stars are good. So we'll go with that. Yay, I'm glad. Any questions about the Sauv Blanc? Any thoughts that go beyond? I love it. There it is. There that is. No? Okay. All right, then I'm going to move on. We are going to go to skin contact. There were some folks who did not get the wine that is on the slide that the majority of us are drinking. But you do have a skin contact. So if you ordered from us and you did not get the Leptir, you did get a different skin contact wine. That is the Pulis Pinot Grigio. So that is also a skin contact wine. So all of the same information still applies. So that's the beauty of substitutions in this case. So we were able to do it. So skin contact wines, I was just asked yesterday in an email from someone about, okay, what are all these words? What does skin contact mean? Again, I could teach a whole class about it. In fact, I have. But what you need to know is that skin contact wines are made from white grapes in a red wine style. So usually when white wine is made now, in modern times, the grapes are pressed, the juice comes out, the juice is separated from the skins, and then the juice is fermented and on goes the winemaking process, and those skins are done away with. Skin contact is a pretty obvious, awesome name. I love it for that reason. It's that the white grapes are pressed, the juice comes out, and then the skin macerates with the juice. So that's how red wine is made. This style of making wine is actually one of the most ancient styles of wine that there is. It was first created in the country of Georgia and came west to Slovenia. So it's been being made in Slovenia for thousands of years. And it's now, be it from Slovenia or Georgia or somewhere else, anywhere else, it's like all the rage, and people are super into them, and for a good reason. They're very interesting wines. So Slovenian skin contacts are known for having kind of a wide variety of fruit flavors. Definitely fruit shows up, and spice. The grapes that are often used in these are coming from their Austrian Germanic heritage. So more Riesling, Pinot Gris, Chardonnay is really French. It's, even further west. Pinot Blanc. So that's kind of like where the grapes are coming from. Generally speaking, skin contact wines are known for having a little more texture to them and a little bit more body than a white wine. And that's true regardless of where in the world you're getting a skin contact wine from, because that's because of the way that they are made. I mentioned at the beginning when I was kind of going over the Italian influence. Right over the border is the area in Friuli, in northeastern Italy, where some winemakers in the 90s, skin contact is not new. It's ancient. It's an ancient style. It was not being made a lot. There were two winemakers in Friuli who were like, yeah, you know what? We think this is our thing. Like, we think that this is what's going to be interesting about Friulian wines. So they and a group of others really focused on that, making these skin contact whites primarily from Pinot Gris and that grape Ribolla that I mentioned at the beginning. So that then came eastward into Slovenia. And so there was kind of like a renewed interest in making these skin contact wines. So if you are drinking the Leptir, as most of us are, it's primarily Pinot Blanc with the remainder Chardonnay and Pinot Gris. If you are drinking the Pulis, it's 100% Pinot Gris. Generally same style, where the grapes they hang out with the skins for about 3 weeks. It's an unusual style of wine if you haven't had it before. And if you drink a lot of skin contact wine, as some of you may, I just think this one is damn delicious, and it has such a pretty label. So food pairing info, by all means, please start tasting, telling me, shouting stuff out. Food pairings, it's amazing with polenta. It's really kind of amazing with all kind of creamy, earthy things. So also mushroom risotto. Salmon, I'd say more like the butter poached salmon than a grilled salmon, but it's going to be great with something with a little bit of fat on it. I could have waxed on and on about all the food pairings. I mean, it'd be great with Thanksgiving. Like you can go so many different directions with this wine and with the Polis. I will say, like, they're similar. And then here's just a beautiful picture of the vineyard. So you can kind of see the steep slopes. Yeah. Now, let's see. Megan and Alex are saying, does the skin contact only affect color or also taste? Also taste. You are getting tannins from the skins and possibly stems and still seeds. So the tannins are going to affect not only the texture, but also like you're going to get slightly different flavors than you would just from like straight Pinot Blanc or something like that. So it's both things. The spice is super prevalent in the aftertaste to a lot of you. A lot of you are saying like that you're getting a lot of spice on the finish. Nikki's asking, is it clove or cardamom on the spice? I would say clove. That would be my leaning. I'm seeing other folks are saying cinnamon, so that's like totally a fair taste. Tart, like a peachiness. Some folks are saying like nail polish remover and iodine. So those terms are fair game, and if you're smelling it, you're totally smelling it. I'm not going to tell you that you're not. They are signs of a flawed wine. I have tasted 3 bottles of this vintage. I have not come across one that smells like that. So I kind of wonder if it's not quite that. But I see what you're saying. I mean, the iodine-y kind of thing, there is a little bit of that. But when we in the wine profession say like glue, we get scared. that's not a good sign, I guess. But that doesn't mean that you're not smelling it. You can totally, that's fair game. So the question now on the table, question about temperature for keeping this. Chill it like a white wine. I don't drink my whites like super, super chilled. So I don't pull them right out of the fridge at home and expect it to taste great, because it's just going to taste like green apples, and it's not going to taste like anything. No matter what the wine is, the only acid that you can really taste when a wine's that cold is malic acid. So, so I would keep this, but it's cold, not room temperature by any sense, or yeah. Okay, question on the table now is, so sour is not a really awesome wine word because sour means the wine has turned into vinegar. What words can you use? So one wine word, and for me, this is what it smells like. Sourdough starter. It has that that sour bread smell. Because it's not just lactobacillus, like it's not just sour. You know what I mean? Like there's something more to that sourness, at least in my. And I didn't take anybody throwing out any of the adhesive stuff or nail polish stuff. I didn't think any of you meant it meanly. No worries. Yeah. So people are saying that it reminds them of a sour beer. I mean, I think that that's fair. I think it's not as sour as a sour beer. I'm going to have to kindly disagree. I think that it is reminiscent, I guess. I will go there with y'all, but I think that it is balanced. I don't think that it has that, you know, I'm going to not say mean things about sour beer because I used to love them. Yeah, I'll just say that I think that there's more going on, and I don't think that it tastes exactly like that. I'll just stop there. A little tannin, very aromatic. Yeah. The smell and the taste are very, very distinct. I will say, I feel like there was some question. Sorry, everybody, you have to like watch me scroll up in the chat, but it is, I do think though that kind of whatever y'all were smelling, I do think that it's going away. Brad was asking what makes mushroom risotto a pairing for so many wines. It's a good question. So mushroom risotto slash creamy mushroom pasta, right? Because they're kind of interchangeable. What makes that specific food such a good wine food? It has a little bit of a lot of things. So it has umami from the mushrooms, but it's not as robust umami as say grilled meat, because grilled red meat is an umami bomb, and that's awesome. But it takes the umami thing up to a level where you need something that kind of like is going to match that, right? So then you kind of have narrowed your choices. So mushrooms have umami, but it's not as overwhelming as roasted or grilled meat. So that's one of the reasons. The creaminess in risotto slash a creamy pasta make it a really lovely pairing for fuller bodied whites, skin contacts, rosés that are fuller in body, and then light bodied reds that can kind of come through. Even some tannic reds can kind of like cut through that creaminess. So it just works with a lot of different wines for kind of different reasons. So I hope that answers that question. I know that kind of took us on a little tangent, but that's all right. All right, let's see. Yeah, people are talking about the yeasty fruit. I agree. Yeah, I think yeasty fruit is a great way to kind of think of this, right? It's like, I mean, actually, if we're going to stick with beer for a hot second, I would say more Saison than sour beer. You know, I feel like it's a little bit more that. Let's see what Meg and Eric are saying. A watered down grapefruit mimosa, not necessarily in a bad way. Funny. And people are agreeing with that. All right. Okay. I'm not getting that, but y'all are, so I'll just let you go. Yeah. Great. Glad that others are finding it. If you are drinking, I don't know if anybody is drinking the Pulis live, but I do know some people have the Pulis at home, so I'm going to pause for just a moment. The Pulis is definitely a more approachable version of kind of what we're talking about. So you're not going to get the same kind of tartness that others are picking up on. So just so you know that you're not completely like, wait, what the heck is happening? In theory, you should still be getting some of that fruit and texture and body thing, but not the tart conversation that we are all having. So, and then there's a question about letting it breathe. That's up to you. There have been 2 wines in a wine class that I ever have opened ahead of time and decanted and let breathe before I would pour them for people, because those specific wines would be basically unpalatable. And people would think, why the hell would I spend that kind of money? Because they're very rare wines. I love the way that this smells right out of the bottle. I love the way that it tastes. I don't think that I like it, not that it doesn't change. And I'm really happy to hear that some of you are like, oh, hey man, it's like kind of doing this thing and it's changing and I like it more than I liked it on the first sip. And that's awesome. I've tasted this with other folks who, like myself, are really into it as soon as they open it. So I don't tell you, you have to let something breathe unless you like the way that unless you want it to, I guess. I hope that makes sense. I think it can also be a matter of the wine isn't changing drastically in these 12 minutes. Our palates are changing. Each sip, your mind has wrapped itself around something, part of that wine in the previous sip. So it will change. It absolutely will. I totally encourage you to like hang out with this for a little while, see how it tastes in a couple of hours, and it will change a little bit. But it's not like, I don't know. It's not Barolo. It's not going to taste like completely different in a day or two. But you now have had exposure to it. If that makes sense, like your palate's getting a little bit more used to it. So cool. Lots of apple, lots of pear. Good. Yeah, good. I'm glad. I'm really glad. I know that it can be a little like, what the hell is happening? There are way funkier ones from within Slovenia, Georgian, and that Northern Italian group. There are some funky skin contacts. So if you do like sour beer and you do like actual mushroom flavors, barnyardy, you like something so tart it kind of hurts the back of your throat, you can dig in. So cool. Let's see. Kristen and Patty Kristen was worried about it because the funk is not her jam. But I'm glad to see that it's kind of changing and that, yeah. Yay, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. A crispy toasted butter corn muffin with this wine sounds freaking delicious. I didn't put it, like I said, this wine is actually surprisingly food friendly. I didn't put it on there, but this is also like great brunch wine. So it's going to be great with kind of all of those things. Are we okay moving on? I feel like we could talk about this wine all day long, but we do have one more wine to get to. Are we good? Yay. Okay, let's move on. So we're going to talk about red. So as I mentioned in the beginning, 3/4 of the country is, or 3/4 of the country's wine production is white. So that's why 2/3 of our class is about white and white adjacent wines. But we have to talk about reds too. So the red grapes that are most prominent in Slovenia, you've got a definite French influence within the reds, Merlot, Pinot Noir, things of that sort. And then, not surprisingly, our Italian friends are quite influential. So you'll see more Italian red varietals grown in the West than in the East. Just geographically speaking, that's a lot easier. And it has a lot more, that part of Slovenia has a lot more in common with Italian terrain, climate, etc., than the eastern part of the country does. Italian reds in Slovenia are known for kind of what they're known for in Italy, black and red fruit flavors. You'll see our French spice again. That is like a through line with all of the wines that we're tasting today, and good acidity. That's definitely because of the varietals themselves and also the climate in this area. Both whites and reds, and I've kind of already gone over that, but they are definitely influenced by the Italians. The food pairings there are really fun and kind of casual. So they come directly from the winery itself. They are like, drink this wine with barbecue. Barbecue, barbecue, barbecue. It's like all they want you to know is that they want you to drink their wine with barbecue. You'll notice the picture of Picassi, the steepness is much lower, right? It's a more rolling hills. It's closer to the Northern Adriatic, so it's definitely more Mediterranean in climate, so it's a little bit warmer. There are a few folks who signed up for the wines close to the time of class, and I do apologize we didn't have the Barbera. We will be getting it back, so you can always kind of come back and revisit this class. So if you are one of the few who didn't get the Barbera, sorry. If you do have it, start drinking and tell me what you think. goodness. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you say things. It's like hard to keep my mouth shut. We've got purple. It's hella purple. Like, it's kind of wild. Barbera is not usually that purpley in color. Smells more fruit forward than it tastes. Yeah, cassis. Yeah, for sure. If you guys don't know cassis, it's a black currant liqueur that is, you pour it into wine to make kir, or you pour it into sparkling wine to make kir royales, and it really is like so cassis-y. Yeah, for sure. Some savory aromas. I mean, it almost goes into candy, cigarette, bubblegum. It almost goes there. But I think it stops shy, and I would say that it's probably more minerals than that. Yeah, there's like an actual spiciness, like not a specific spice, right? Like our last wine, right? Where we were like, it's cinnamon, it's clove, like an actual spice. This is like spicy, and that's acidity. Acidity can play a lot of tricks on our tongue. And one of those tricks is that it makes a wine taste spicy, because our mouth waters in the same way that it does when it has spicy food. So yeah, big, juicy, spicy, tons of acidity on the finish. I think the tannins are, they're like just enough to keep it balanced, right? It's not just like a total fruit bomb. It's not just all acid. There is some structure to it. I don't know if anybody has plans to have barbecue tonight. Maybe save this wine and get some barbecue because I'm like, oh yeah, that's why they're like, drink this wine with barbecue, right? Yeah. Spicy curry. Absolutely. Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, barbecue from Memphis waiting for you tonight. Oh my gosh. Happy birthday to Patty. Happy birthday. Maybe we're planning on drinking something else, but you could have a little sip of this. Tell us, report back, tell us how it goes. So when you guys were first tasting and I tasted it and my eyes lit up, I was just like, oh my God, cherry. Like I was like, holy cherry bomb. Like it just was so much darn cherry, which I kind of love. Oh, a little Southern Rhone, Gigondas. It does kind of have that minerally smell to it. To the folks who were asking about minerals with our first wine, the minerals here are maybe a little less obvious, but worth pondering over. If if you're up for kind of thinking about minerals, if you kind of stop, maybe after class or something, and you kind of stop and really taste this wine and think about like, what's happening in the background of this wine that is not fruity, that is not the spice, that's like sort of rocky, I think maybe you can pick up on it today. Maybe you don't pick up on it today, but know that it's there. Yeah. So I heard that at least one lovely person out there does not enjoy this wine so much, but I believe, unless I stand corrected, that person doesn't really drink a ton of red wine. I could be wrong about that. How are others feeling about it? Good, bad, happy, grumpy? Okay. We've got at least likes and goods, and then some are loving. Great. Yeah. do I know if it was aged in stainless? It is. So it is aged in stainless. They are going for a very fresh style. And that's true of all of their wines. The owner of the winery is a ballroom dancer, like apparently a very famous one. So these are the line drawings are taken from photographs of some of his dances. So his whole kind of philosophy with this and with the winemaker is that it's, they want pure varietal fruit. So they're aging in stainless, sorry. They're aging in stainless to kind of keep it pure, fresh fruit. And that's what they're going for. So big but soft edges, very rounded, mixed feelings, so interesting. Nathan and Sydney are not loving it. That surprises me. I'm not gonna lie. That really surprises me. I feel like this would be your cup of tea. Maybe it is the sourdough playing tricks on you. Maybe have it with something not quite so. Yeah, right? I just go back to cheese. Go back, I don't know, get some pizza. Yeah, something a little spicy. Yeah. Okay, good. Get some cheese out. Then the acidity will be serving its purpose, and it'll. I hope. Yeah. And Meg is saying like something with some spices, with some spice, right? Some cheese, some burrata, and then something like something spicy, which I think would be absolutely delicious. That sounds great. It's so interesting. Lots of couples are split today, which is totally fine. You're two different people and you have two different palates. You do not have to agree with your significant other. But it is really interesting to me. For those who are not totally loving it, that's totally fair game. It is, I will say this, it is a very pure and varietally correct version of Barbera. So if you don't love this, don't spend a lot of time exploring the Barberas of Piedmont, because I think that this is equally good to a lot of, like under $20 Barberas. And it really shows you what Barbera is about. So if it's not your jam, it's not your jam. And that is a-okay. It doesn't have to be. Yeah. But it does kind of show how closely related Slovenia is to Italy, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to choose it. When the winemakers are going with Italian varietals, they're going to kind of stay true to the style that you would also see in Italy. So it's not a complete departure, which makes sense, right? They are neighbors. They're very closely related. We are at time. I'm wondering if there are any lingering questions. If anybody's wondering anything about Slovenian wine that we didn't cover. I know we had a lot of folks at the beginning with Slovenian heritage. I'm wondering, did we do your family proud? did it go well? The things that I have been reading is that Slovenian wine you're going to be seeing it more and more. I know there's a wine distributor in Milwaukee who just carries Slovenian wines. He hasn't really started calling on Madison shops yet. Maybe he never will, but there is definitely more of it to come. It's definitely interesting. I tasted, yesterday I tasted a whole lineup of Slovenian wines, and I have a Petnat, red Petnat coming from Slovenia, and a Pinot Noir. I bought 3 cases of it because I think it's really darn delicious, and it's going to be like in the high-ish teens. So that'll be in and around April. So you can kind of keep your eye out for more interesting Slovenian happenings at the shop. Nikki's asking if Barbera is one of the most popular Slovenian reds. It's kind of hard to find stats. There are countries that are really have robust information about their wine industry, and there are countries that don't. And I would say Slovenia is not a particularly robust one. So the information that I can find, it's things like 40% are other reds, and then here are the red grapes that they are. So within Primorska, which is that western region, it is one of the top 3 most grown reds. So within that region, yes. In the rest of the country, I don't think that it's kind of huge. Kristen and Patty are asking if we have others in the shop besides these 3. We do. So we currently have 2 wines from the winery Pulis. So we have the Pulis Sauvignon Blanc, which I mentioned earlier, and the Pulis Pinot Grigio, which is the skin contact that some folks got. So we have those 2, and then we have the others coming at the end of April. So I'm glad to see those of you with Slovenian heritage, that I did your family proud. I'm really glad. That means a lot to me. Yeah. And Slovenian wine being the next big thing, I think so. I think it is. That said, they've been saying that for a while. And I don't know, but right now at the shop, we have, this selection of Slovenian wines. We have a wine from Slovakia. We have a wine from Croatia. There's at least more available in Madison than there ever has been before. And I think that they're hitting on what a lot of us are interested in drinking right now. So that's really exciting to see. So I'm glad. Yay. I'm so glad. This is so great. I'm so glad to hear it. And it sounds like Sauv Blanc was the winner, at least in one household. I don't know what the winner was for the rest of you. Yay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. If you don't have any other questions, I really appreciate you being inside or outside with a computer near you on this beautiful day. It means a lot to me. Oh, yay. Some of the best whites you've ever tasted. That's amazing. I mean, I love these wines. I just think they're spectacular. So I'm really, really excited. Left here. Yay. I'm glad. Oh my gosh. Yay. Nathan and City tried the Barbera with not sourdough, and it's better. So I'm really glad. Yay. Yay. Sauv Blanc was the winner. One likes the Sauv Blanc, the other likes the red. Great. I'm so glad. I was excited to be able to do this class just because we actually had enough breadth of wines available to us that I could teach a class about it instead of saying like, yeah, teach it, but what do we have? So yeah, awesome. I'm so glad. Yay. Yes. Thank you all so much. I hope that you have a lovely rest of the day. Thank you for joining me for Slovenia. I do have 2 more classes coming up this month. We have Pinot Gris, which will be great, and we'll taste Pinot Gris from around the world. And we have food and wine pairing fundamentals, which is absolutely my passion. It's something that I don't know that I'll be able to keep it within an hour, but I will try my darndest. So hopefully you can join us for one or both of those. So bye, everybody. Thank you so much.